I'm going to tell you, I'm going to regale you with the tale of my commercial this week. So it came time for my scene, the one that I was cast in. They sat there, they looked at it, and they were like, okay, you know what, Tony, switch to the back, and let's see the yoga girl come forward. And they're like,
Huh?
you know what, Tony, why don't you step off to the side, and we're going to bring in Pamela and see how that looks. And then they shot the scene with me not in it. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? So it was a tough day for Tony. How was your week, Dan?
It's okay. I must say I was not shamed in front of all of my peers this week.
Hey, you're doing all right.
Hey, watch him with Dan and Tony. Hey, watch him with Dan and Tony. It's like watching, yeah.
Welcome to Hate Watching with Dan and Tony. That's sometimes happy, sometimes stern Tony. And we watch the movies.
Sometimes. I don't know.
Sometimes.
Is this a movie? I don't know.
This week we're doing instant classic from 2020, the year that was just a year ago. Dolittle, not Dr. Dolittle, not The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, which I guess at one point it was called The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle.
Oh, really?
You know, Seth Rogen worked on this movie a little bit.
Oh, what did he do? Did he?
They brought him in there to punch up the humor.
Oh, no, he didn't do a good job.
This movie at times, well, we're going to really get into this movie. Hour and 41 minutes, HBO, Universal, RK Films. One of those ones that's just like, this took 1,000 different producers to make this mess.
Sure.
Robert Downey Jr. at the top of the list of the person who makes this film the worst.
Without a doubt. And I have never, ever said that before in my life. I love RDJ. Love him.
Now, I went back and watched some of the Sherlock Holmes movie. I think I watched the first 15, 20 minutes of one of the Sherlock Holmes movies. And I remember those being like, not great, but not problematic.
Yeah.
But almost instantly, I saw that there were a lot of similar things going on in those movies.
Interesting. Did you watch the first one or did you skip ahead?
I watched the second one. I couldn't find the first one, but the Game of Shadows was on there.
Game of Shadows, yeah. I don't remember that movie.
He plays this really weird, he's sometimes incredibly competent, and then sometimes he's acting like he's drunk.
That sounds about right. Maybe he is drunk.
And so in this movie, what was it about his performance that bothered you so much, Tony?
Is this a performance, Dan? I don't know. I mean, this guy, first of all, where's that accent from? What is that accent? Is that a real accent? Or is he just kind of like, I feel like it changed throughout the whole movie. It's basically just like whispered talking the whole time. The guy shows no emotion. He's got no comedic timing, which is weird because he does have comedic timing. We've seen it. We've seen it over and over. But this guy, he's so fucking flat in this movie. And he's just talking like this all the time. I don't even know what he's doing. He's got like a weird Christopher Walken cadence without the charisma. I don't know. It's all bad. It's all bad.
The accent he's going for is, the accent he was going for is called Welsh. And so on the Joe Rogan podcast, Downey discussed his inspiration, and it stemmed from a Welsh neo-pagan physician named William Price. So he wanted to be this crazy. All he did was he Googled wildest Welsh doctor, and then came up with this guy because he didn't want to do an English accent. And so he wanted to play this nutty Welsh doctor, neo-druidist, who believed he could communicate with all nature. So this is what he said. He sent a picture of what this guy was wearing to the director, and the director was like, looks good to me. Let's do it.
No.
So
I think...
In other words, he looked at this picture and was like, yeah, this is my dude. Then he listened to a few people do Welsh accents. Welsh accent, one of the hardest accents in the world to do because it
must be.
It's very subtle. It's like all the British ones. Once you start doing them, if you aren't really embodying that thing, it becomes a caricature.
If that, yeah. Caricature is almost generous on this. So hold on, just based on that story, it doesn't sound like he knew the inspiration beforehand. He Googled what he wanted to find in his inspiration, right? Like he was like, I need a crazy Welsh guy who talks to nature. Like that's not how you do inspiration. Generally, it's like, I know this guy and I can embody him because I love, like, I don't know. That sounds like the wrong, like the chicken and the egg, but he got it wrong.
Yeah, well, it's that classic thing. It's where you're inspired by something, but it's three or four things removed from actual
Layers,
reality,
yep.
and so there's just nothing there. There's you're not drawing on somebody and something that's real that has layers and depths. You're like looking at a crazy picture of someone who's crazy, and then you're making the faces. And I also felt this whole thing was very clown inspired. Everything he did was very clown, which is like this sort of overreactive, something you do on stage and you do live that people can sort of work into. But when you see it on the screen where, an eyebrow can mean everything, it looks absurd.
It is absurd, but not in a fun way. Like absurd things can be fun, but it wasn't fun at all. It was
his performance made what Kate McKinnon does seem fun.
First of all, Dan, what Kate McKinnon does is fucking genius compared to what Robert Downey Jr. does in this movie. I mean, she might be the greatest comedian of all time just in that comparison.
So, and we're going to talk about the sort of whole setup of the character and how that, in my opinion, doesn't work at all. Did you watch any of the other Dr. Dolittles?
I had to go back and rewatch the Eddie Murphy one. Yeah, I had to cleanse my palate from this fucking movie.
I watched about the first half an hour, 40 minutes of the Eddie Murphy one, which I've maybe seen one time, and we'll get into what that movie teaches us as to what went wrong in this movie, because it teaches us a few things, I think, that are very important. So we start off with this whole weird animation where we learn that he married this woman named Lily, and they adventured together, and then she left on an adventure without him for reasons that we're not quite sure.
Well, I think they say he had to watch the animals.
I believe that's what the pitch was, which doesn't make any sense. I better look out after the animals. And so then she dies.
Which I honestly thought that they were going to find her on the island. I thought she made it to the island and he was going to rescue her. And then they just never did. And I was like, wait, what's happening? I don't understand this movie.
You've set up this whole thing that we are all expecting her to pop up at this opportune time and do something and be amazing. And it's going to pay off that he is having such a level of grief for her. But nope. We don't need to.
He's just going to keep on having grief.
We're going to set up this whole thing. And we also set up that they're like animal rights people, which just was...
But he's like a real doctor. I'm confused. Was he a real doctor or was he a vet doctor the whole time?
I think in the original story, he sort of trained as a real doctor. I think the premise is he trained as a real doctor and then he slowly became this animal doctor.
Okay, because it felt like in this movie, like he was just always an animal doctor, which is fine. Like that's fine with me. But then she comes along and is like, "Hey, let's go on adventures." And then they went on adventures. But I was like, "This guy's just a vet. He's a veterinarian. Why is he going on adventures?" I just didn't understand the setup. Like, who is this lady that is like? Is she Indiana Jones? Is that what she's? What are the adventures about? What are you looking for? I don't understand it.
And that's if you watch the original 60s movie, he's a scientist. And so he goes on adventures all over the world to meet other creatures and learn how to talk their languages. And, he's an explorer, he's a Charles Darwin type. And that's...
So he's like, that makes sense.
And I was going to make that pitch. Is that's the problem with this whole movie is they set him up as being distraught and like has cut himself off from the real world because of her death. But he's sort of just angry at himself.
Yep.
Which
for sure
is stupid. What you do is you always want to make this character like close themselves off, and then they're forced to go out and adventure for whatever reason.
Sure.
But I don't know. His whole craziness just doesn't work, in my opinion. Because
it doesn't work at all. And part of it is Robert's fault, I think.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't sell it at all. Like I don't feel this internal struggle in him at all, which I know it's a comedy kids film, whatever. Like I have to buy the premise of the movie and I never do. Not for 1 second.
Yeah, there's one point where they get to the boat finally and he starts talking to Stubbins and he's just like, "Oh, he's normal now. He's fixed."
Yeah.
And he doesn't get fixed through any catharsis or any change. He's just like, "Well, I guess I have to start acting like a normal human being and standing upright and da 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 da."
Yep.
And you're like, "Well, because I don't buy that." So yeah, I think you should have just started this where he's forced on this adventure by the Queen, literally. You know?
Yeah. Why? I don't understand. Who is the girl?
She's like a princess or something.
I mean, I understand like but why is she the one going to him and being like, "Hey, the Queen said," what? Just have the Queen summon him? I don't know. It's just weird to me.
The whole setup with the little girl, she's like beyond wasted. I mean, she's very cute, and you're like, "Oh, okay,
sure, yeah."
I enjoyed her presence, but there's no reason for her to be there. And you know, once again, it's this whole thing where the little boy and the little girl both end up on the estate at the exact same moment, coming into his house at the exact, literal, like same second, and no one has been in this house in 20 years or some amount of time.
Yeah, forever and ever and ever. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with a fairy tale is you have to just sort of pick your thread, and that's what you follow. You start with Dorothy, and then she picks up people as she goes along, and that's fine. But
yeah, sure.
You know, Dorothy doesn't show up at the same time that the Scarecrow shows up, and then they both toss the house on the witch.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Oh, hey.
So we meet the boy, Stubbins, and we do a whole thing where, you know, we're a family of hunters, and you're not a hunter. You're like sensitive boy.
Story of my life, Dan. This was the part of the movie where I was like, I can relate to you, and you're still doing it wrong. That was my problem. It's like, this is my story as a kid. I could regale you with tales about my dad bringing me hunting and me crying with a gun in my shoulder as he's like, shoot. And like, I remember the one time that I killed a duck, I fucking cried for like 3 days. I could not get over it. And this was just, it was a huge miss. It's like, this is a very relatable thing for us sensitive boys. Nothing at all.
But they didn't really they just sort of made him sensitive in like, in what he said. Oh, I don't want to kill it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to kill any. I don't want to kill it. Oh no, I killed the squirrel. Oh man, it's bleeding everywhere. Like, no, kid, you are affected deeply emotionally. This just scarred you for the rest of your life. Seeing the squirrel bleeding out on the ground, that sticks with you, man.
But of course, there's no blood on the squirrel. There's no injury on the squirrel. The squirrel's just stunned.
I didn't know what happened.
Nobody knows. You just shot him. You're like, bullets.
Like,
he's unaffected.
I feel like if you're shooting a bullet at a bird and it hits a squirrel, I think that squirrel gets eviscerated. Like, I think you're using a bullet big enough that squirrel just exploded on the fucking tree. I don't know. It's not a BB gun, guys.
And I mean, that's the thing is, you know, when you Bambi up, you know, when you're like burning the forest and killing all the things, and you know, I'm crying for Thumper like a little baby in the theater.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I saw that movie when I was a kid, and that traumatized me. You know,
it messes you up.
I do not want to go back to that movie, and so they want to set up that premise, but they can't show us a bloody squirrel or even imply it.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe don't show the squirrel for 5 minutes just sitting there being like, I'm hurt. Are you? Did you fall and twist your ankle? Is that what happened? You got so scared?
And that's the thing, we always talk about you never want to hurt animals or anything in a movie because you're going to turn off the audience. This thing, we don't care about any of these things because they're so fictitious. They don't even exist as characters. They're just like, they're the dreams in animators' minds. So he figures out that, Polynesia comes along and she's all like, take him to Dr. Dolittle. I liked Emma Thompson. I liked Emma Thompson as the bird. I thought she was fine. And then, so he goes there.
I do have questions on the bird, Dan. Yeah. You read the books a long time ago.
No, I never.
You've never read the books. You just watched the original. I'm a little confused at one point, and I'm jumping around, and I apologize. Sure. But the bird, Polly Bird, is like, I'm speaking human. As opposed, because the boy's like, I can understand you. She's like, no, I'm speaking human better than any bird ever. I was like, but why? Is she a special bird?
That's the whole setup in the 60s movie is that Polynesia is super smart and learned all these languages, and then she's the one who teaches Dr. Dolittle initially. And so,
but not in this movie.
Oh no, because that would set up, Robert Downey Jr. would have to be under a bird, and that would be like, no, I'm a superstar. You can't make the bird more important.
I'm Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Yeah, the bird is like the master of languages. I mean, he starts learning lots of fish languages and stuff, but she's his initial teacher, as I remember it. And super interesting
that makes
dynamic.
More sense.
Yeah, it sets up a dynamic where you could, in 2 or 3 lines, you could say, well, Polynesia is a master of 1,000 animal languages, and because we all understand that macaws and things speak English. We all understand that already.
Right. We can bring that with us. You can take that logical leap that like, it knows. Okay. So here's my question then. How the fuck does this boy start understanding animals? Because why doesn't the bird teach him then? That makes perfect sense. All of a sudden the boy's just like, I think I'm figuring it out. How? What the hell are you talking about? It comes out of nowhere. All of a sudden he's just like, I think means I want my blanket. Based on what, you jackass? God, I flipped out when that happened. Okay. So that would make sense if the bird, okay.
I didn't even make notes about that kind of stuff because that stuff is so beyond the pale of what's wrong with this movie. So
it's too much.
So he goes to the fence and boom, there he is standing on this giant estate, and there are like 2 or 3 elephants.
Yep.
This made me angry. Why do you think that made me angry, Tony?
Because did it remind you of the P.T. Barnum joke in Ghostbusters?
No, it did not. Oh! That joke. Because that wasn't a joke. If that had been a joke, I would think about it occasionally as like, wah, 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 wah. I remember that hilarious joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was a bad line in a terrible movie. Tony, now if I told you, little Tony who cares and feels, if I said to you, little Tony, if you get a ladder and go look over that fence that's a mile away from here, you will see elephants. How much of your time would you spend looking over that fence at elephants?
I'd say like 90 to 95% of my time, I think, give or take.
There's no child in the world that wouldn't want to have a free elephant show every day of their life.
1,000,000%.
1,000,000%. And so you're like, you can't have elephants and giraffes. You just can't. You can't.
No, it's too cool.
It's too good. Cool. It's too good. And that was the whole thing, I think, in the original Dr. Dolittle movie, is he has farm animals. He has mice. He does not have, it's not a freaking zoo. Because it doesn't make any sense for it to be a freaking zoo.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. About the most exotic thing he has is Polynesia, who is very exotic, but is a bird that lives in the house and will not have thousands of children looking over the walls. A herd of elephants, which let's not even get into the idea of maintaining these animals, which we're going to talk about.
Which he, I imagine, doesn't do.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay, all right, sorry. Yeah, let's
go.
So
here we are inside the gate. We then meet the polar bear with the hat. The polar bear wears the hat because he's cold or something.
What? The polar bear's cold all the time? That was his problem. He's like, the polar bear came to me with a problem. He's like, well, I'm cold. What? What the hell are you talking about? What? It's not even a joke, really.
They pay it off many times during the movie to
pay it off.
Nary a laugh. He's always going up to fires and always putting on blankets.
He's sunbathing at one point, and bro, I don't even know.
So then he and the ape, played by Rami Malek, are playing chess with mice.
That was one of the ones I couldn't figure out.
Rami Malek is not funny. He has a very boring voice.
Yep.
He's very. I mean, and he's so interesting looking. I think people assume he has an interesting voice, but he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. But he also doesn't. He's not like a comedic actor. Like that's not like what he does. He's like a serious, interesting actor.
And you know who plays the polar bear, right?
John Cena.
And he's terrible.
Right?
He's terrible.
Well, yeah, but he's still John Cena. So like part of me's like, what are you gonna do? It's John Cena.
But John Cena has had some of the funniest movie things going on in the past 5 years.
If you're looking for a guy with just oodles of charisma, I feel like it's Dwayne Johnson, John Cena. I feel like those are the guys you go to. I don't know.
Did we get that out of the polar bear?
Not even a little bit.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. Okay, so the girl from Buckingham Palace shows up. Somehow the kid got out of the net. How'd the kid get out of the net?
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I remember Robert Downey Jr. looks at the net through the window, and then they're at the door.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
So the queen is sick, and then I wrote down another classic Dan Goodsell line. Oh no, it's the lunch machine, which is your classic crazy machine. You don't even remember the lunch machine, do you? Because you blocked it out of your mind.
I don't. I really don't.
It's lunchtime, and so there's this Rube Goldberg machine all stocked with different things that dispenses into 27 different bowls, so every animal gets its bowl. You don't even remember it because it was so stupid, and you hated it so much. If you'd have kept that memory in your mind, you would have hated your life.
I think I was also, all of that is 100% true, and I think I was also still trying to figure out how he's talking to animals, because in the beginning, he's using their language. He's talking to the gorilla. And then at some point, they just switch to English. Yeah. And I was like, okay, now I don't know if the movie's telling me they're still speaking their own languages and it's just coming through as English for us, or if now they've all just switched to English for no fucking reason at all. So I think I was still reeling from that revelation when all of that happened, and I was like, I'm so lost on this movie, I can't handle it.
So then we have one of the biggest runner jokes of the whole movie. They're working on the squirrel, and then he keeps asking for forceps, and the duck keeps giving him celery.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't it's happened. It happened a couple times, and I was like, oh, I don't understand what's happening. I don't get the joke.
It's a joke. It's called a joke, Tony. Yeah,
Dan, I don't know if it is a joke.
Yeah, Tony, you don't get the joke.
You don't get it, you idiot.
So I wrote, if she dies, he loses everything. I wrote spit take. I guess somebody does a spit take at that point. And then we do, of course, because his hair is long, we have to do the hilarious haircut scene.
Is that when Polly cuts his hair?
Don't remember. There's some hilarious.
She eats it off or some. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's all weird.
So then we go to the palace, and he rides the ostrich. Then the ostrich runs right through and knocks over the armor, and it's and then we got Kumail.
Well, he stops, and then Robert gets off, and then he knocks over the stuff because it's a joke again, and I didn't understand. Didn't understand it.
And we got Kumail playing the ostrich, and then there's supposed to be some friction between him and the polar bear.
the whole time, which gets resolved at the end of the movie. And they point it out at the end of the movie. They're like, and now they get together. And I was like, wait, did they not get along before? I don't even remember them having a feud.
So there must be some weird scenes that they've cut out of these two not getting along with each other. But we didn't put those in the movie. But when we have the big payoff at the end, it's one of our big payoffs.
Yeah, that's like part of the emotional catharsis of the movie. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening. I thought they got along fine. They're together the whole movie, pretty much.
So we come in there, and there's Michael Sheen, who is a real actor in this movie. And you're just like, Michael is like, he got home from that, and he said to his wife, I'm sorry if you ever have to watch this movie. I'm fine, and the paycheck is incredible.
It's great. It's a great paycheck.
And I'm an incredible actor, but you cannot hold me accountable for this movie.
I feel like those are really the days, Dan, that you go home and you kind of sit there and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? What is happening in my life right now? I'm going to work and it's batshit crazy. When did I become that guy? I'm a great actor. I don't know.
It's those paycheck jobs you take, and then you're like, well, I mean, it might have turned out really good. It might have. It didn't.
It didn't.
You know,
it didn't.
I've probably told this story before, but David Cross tells a story about being in the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, and he's all like, "That paid for my house."
Hey,
can't argue with the dude.
It.
It's like what we would do is unimaginable to pay for our house. We would do things that are like filthy and sad and shameful, and these guys only had to be in the Chipmunks movie. So Michael Sheen's
which, by the way, not nearly as bad as this movie.
Oh God, no. Those movies much better than this movie, much better. I would never do those movies on here because they're Chipmunks movies, so they're kind of unappealing.
Yeah, but they're fine. Dan, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm hearing myself in an echo.
I'm not.
Can you take off your headphones? Am I coming through your computer at all?
No.
Check.
No.
That's weird. Oh well, fuck it.
The little lines don't look like they're echoing. They don't go like this.
Okay.
Tony. Why? Ghostbusters was bad.
No, it wasn't. Damn.
So here's the Queen sleeping. I don't even know what she looks like. It's this bed. It looks cheap, and she's just kind of laying there, and you're like,
but she's also, her arms are out, like she's kind of like splayed out as if she was murdered, as opposed to just like sick. It was weird.
And the color in her face is perfect.
Yep. No, she looks fine. Like if I was a doctor and I showed up there, I'd be like, no, she's fine. What's the problem? I don't know. She looks great.
It's so weird. It's like, put the deathly pallor on her. Make us think that there's something wrong.
Make her pale. Just make her extra pale. That's all you got to do. It's not hard.
You have 200 makeup people because there's all these guards and and then we have
198 of them are just for Robert Downey Jr. Dan. So you only got a couple to use.
So then here's his name, Jim Broadbent. Is that his name? Like one of the greatest actors of all time is playing like the exchequer or whatever. And man, they give him nothing to do. Like the most nothing.
And then they surprise twist, they make him the bad guy. And I was like, what? What is the point of this? He's not doing anything in the movie.
So then there's a bunch of butt jokes, whatever. Then he talks to the octopus. And then he like leaves a walking stick to spy on everybody. And he leaves the dog.
I really thought that the octopus bit should have been funny. Like, I feel like in my head it's still funny, but I remember watching and being like, this isn't funny at all. Like, it should have been a fun bit where he takes out the goggles and puts his... I don't know, man.
I mean, which kind of leaves us to the thing is like, shouldn't he have like gotten all the information from the octopus about the whole thing? Because the octopus has been there the whole time. And the octopus should say, that
octopus is there all the time. He lives there. He can't go anywhere else. Literally, he's in a tiny aquarium cage. He hears and sees everything.
And I think, octopus being a saltwater creature that lives in salt water, I do not believe you could have saltwater tanks back then. I think saltwater tanks take a lot of very, very hard to maintain. So
I believe that. I do.
So the only choice of what to do is to find a magical tree that can cure anything, because
even, I mean, this is the part that got me interested, is even baldness, they said. So if we can find that tree, I am in.
So he sends the boy home, and then the boy goes home to the hunters again.
Yeah, just it was so weird. He's like, what are you gonna do, send me home? And then it like cuts to him being home, and I was like, oh, okay.
As opposed to what should have happened is they should have gotten thrown out of the palace, and then they were forced to go right to the docks, and they should have immediately stolen a boat and taken off, and then Michael Sheen should have come up in, and it would have made a lot of sense for him to be pursuing them in another boat, because they're bad guys. But no, they're allowed to just leave, and then Michael Sheen is allowed to just have his own boat that he sort of follows in.
A warship?
Yeah, as opposed to just like, once they're outside of the range of the Queen's ears, just like, have them arrested. It just doesn't make any sense. It's the classic, let them go so we can chase them.
But in like, not even in a fun way. I don't mind that trope as long as the chasing is fun. But at this, I would have just rather you arrested them immediately and ended the movie. Just been like, you know what? You're right. We're done. End of story. Let's move on.
That's what we all wish. So now then Polynesia goes to the Hunter Boy's house and it's like, you're special. We need you. Hop on this giraffe. And then there's a chase through the town where all these guards are chasing them for no reason. And they're like, why are they chasing us? And no one answers that question.
But what they do say is like, it's not an escape if you're not being chased. So that's why, Dan. I don't know, but that was the line in the movie. Someone was like, it's not an escape if you're not being chased. And then it's like, okay.
They get to the boat or they get somewhere and somebody makes the joke, is that up to code?
I don't remember that.
Like code enforcement.
Was it up to code?
No, because code enforcement's it's like the whole, I hate these jokes that are from now that they put in the past. And Craig Robinson as the squirrel does a lot of them. And I just hate them.
Oh, that's who the squirrel is.
I hate them. I
mean, his whole bit is from the future. He's doing like a squirrel's log. Like his entire bit is something that did not exist then.
Yeah, and I personally, I understand Robin Williams can be the genie and do all these jokes. That's a thing that people are used to. But when
he's a magical genie.
He is a magical genie, and he has access to everything.
The guy's got superpowers.
But when every character speaks in a different time period, it just gets really confusing. Like, because Kumail's jokes are all like contemporary, but they're different contemporary.
But like a bunch of them do that. And I wrote down a couple at some point. I'm not going to take the time to find them. I think at one point they mention Big Bird and make like a Sesame Street joke. And I was like, you can't do that. Doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so we get to the boat, and at one point, Dr. Dolittle takes Polynesia and throws her off the boat, like really violently. Like,
can I tell you? My wife will get mad at this. That was the only point in this movie where she laughed, and I was like, "What is the matter with you? That's not funny."
It wasn't funny, but it was. I will actually defend her, and I never defend hurting an animal joke. It was incongruous to the rest of this movie, and so I could see how you could laugh. You're like, what the hell is happening? Wait, this thing's gonna get really crazy right now, and then uncomfortable. It's like it's like this is uncomfortable and weird, but it was just this one.
And then it was immediately back, though. That's the problem. It was like 1 second, and then we're just right back in the movie.
So then we're on the thing. He lets the kids stay. We do some boxing with the gorilla, which is sort of a foreshadow to something that comes later. And then the warship shows up and starts shooting at them. And then they're like, Plan B.
Cannons. It's shooting cannons at them. That's
and then
bad.
They throw this thing off there, and then the whale comes up, and then he has to jump, and he has to tie it on the whale, and the whale
now,
pulls
Dan,
him away.
I have some whale questions.
Absolutely.
Really just one.
Yes.
Why is the whale there? Did he call the whale? Or was the whale already there, and then he was like, oh, look, there's a whale. Hey, whale. All of a sudden the whale was just there. I don't understand.
This movie has all these things at different times where the correct character creature shows up. I mean, there's like a fox riding the giraffe at one point, and then the fox sort of disappears, and the fox sort of reappears, disappears, back at the end. The dragonfly, which I don't know if we talked about that, but, the dragonfly is there, and then he's gone, and then he's there, and the whale is there because we need the whale for this scene.
I just don't understand the rules. I don't understand the animal rules of the movie. I don't know.
Because this movie wants to have so many animals and so many wacky guest star cameo things that it doesn't just focus on there being like 3 or 4 animals and the humans, and then we have connection and we form these different bonds, and then we see as it goes along. In the other movie, at a certain point, Dr. Dolittle stops and he goes down in the ocean, and then he talks to clams, very specific, asking them what he's looking for. And it's magical. This stuff becomes not magical because it is so very magical. Quickly. It's just like, oh, we need a thing. Oh, we have a thing, and everything's here, and da-da-da. But I did think it was beautiful. I thought the whale animation was beautiful. I thought pulling the boat was beautiful. I mean, I thought it was a great bit.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. I just didn't understand how we got there.
Yeah,
which to me is just like, oh, now I'm out. If I can't go with you.
If there'd have been a seagull at the beginning, and he'd have been like, "Go find Ivan," and the seagull had flown off, and then at the perfect moment, Ivan pulls up, we're like, setup, payoff. But this, I guess that's the whole thing, is comedy and everything is set up, payoff. These movies just go right to payoff. And so you're like, okay, well, I guess they can do that. I guess they have a magical feeding machine because they have a magical feeding machine.
I don't remember this feeding machine.
It's there. Go back.
I'm going to go back and watch just the beginning of this movie so I can see this machine.
Oh, so they get away, and now we're at Monteverde, which is where the wife's book is stored that has the information, and the wife is the daughter of the king, and the king hates him because the wife is dead.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas.
And so what do? We start talking to a bunch of ants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they do like this. They break a break into the castle, but not really. Listen. I half watched this movie at this point. I was so out of this thing.
And that's what happens to you in a movie like this. You're like, wow, there's ants.
You just turn to mush.
And they're breaking in, and then they get to this thing, and then they sends the kid in because the kid can go through the bars, and the kid gets the book, and then the lions, and then they're captured, and then they're going to be fed to the lions. And then the kid goes with Razuli, and then we have Barry the tiger.
Oh, yeah. Whew. That was a journey. Barry the tiger.
Barry the tiger. What's the deal with Barry the tiger, Tony?
He's a terrible cat.
Barry the tiger, Tony. Tony the tiger.
Comma. I don't even know. I just know he's not a good cat because a cat would have taken that chain immediately. My cat, when I play with my cat with one of those string toys and I'm throwing the thing around, he goes straight for the source. He's not an idiot. He's like, okay, you're throwing that around, but it's coming from right here. I'm going to take that string right here and I'm going to eat the shit out of it. Cats aren't dumb.
Goes right for the face, claws you across the face.
Just goes for me, takes me out.
If I take you out, then I got the string all to myself. You're down.
Yeah, then I'm good to go. I mean, this was stupid. And then they do that light trick, which was, it's a bit. It's a cat bit.
It did
People
not
use it.
It did not bother me, the shiny light.
Yeah.
And
no, it was fine.
So, okay, one thing. Why is the cat angry at Dr. Dolittle?
I don't remember. Did they say?
Sort of. he was psychoanalyzing the tiger. And
in the scene.
No, like before. He was the cat's therapist. And then he left him in the middle of therapy, and so the cat is angry about him abandoning him in the middle of therapy.
I do remember the tiger. He kept saying like, "I need to finish my treatment" or something. And I was like, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about.
You know, it couldn't be the thorn in the paw. It had to be psychological.
Psychoanalysis.
I thought it was going to be.
He's got emotional problems.
I thought it was dentistry at first. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, sure.
Dentistry, which, nobody else is going to be able to be his dentist, but no, it was psychotherapy.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. Great stuff.
So then the ape breaks in there and starts fighting the tiger and kicks the tiger in the balls, which is... There's like a bunch of balls and poop and butthole jokes.
Oh, yeah, and we've got a big one coming up.
A big butthole coming up. Butt jokes and dick jokes are amongst the funniest jokes ever, except when it's adult men trying to write these jokes to make children laugh.
Yeah. Here's the reason I know that this movie sucks, right? Is because this joke where the monkey kicks the tiger in the balls, I hated it. I didn't laugh. I didn't smirk. I was like, oh my God, fuck you. In Ghostbusters, they shoot the thing right in the dick, and I laughed for days. I could not stop laughing.
Who'd they shoot in the dick?
The monster at the end, you don't remember that? He's got his grip on the building, and like, loosen his grip, and they shoot him in the nuts. Hilarious to me. This movie, not funny at all.
Even a not funny movie like Ghostbusters can kind of get a dick joke right. This movie can't even come close to it. It's so sad.
No, and if you mess up a dick joke, like, you are not doing well.
So then the kid just walks back in and steals the book again because of who knows.
It's like the same thing.
And then
doesn't he get captured again?
No. He steals the book. Oh God, this is what it gets. Okay. This movie. You thought this movie was bad. There's still. Well, I stopped taking a lot of notes because this movie was so bad.
Good. Me too.
So everybody gets away and they're on the dock, and then the bad guy, Michael Sheens, shoots his boat. His boat sinks. Boat sunk.
Yeah.
And then we have like sort of the wrap up of the whole movie where Dr. Dolittle's like, I'm going to just stay here and be an animal doctor, and da da da. And you're like, Rasuli's going to just kill you when he walks out there because there's no.
Like you just had to escape. You were running for your life, and now you're just like, all right, I'm good. We can go back.
And then we cut around the corner, and there's Rasuli like listening. Oh, he really did love my daughter. Oh, if he loved my daughter, how can I kill him?
Easy.
So
easy.
He's so annoying. So where's Rasuli? And he gives up. It's like I wrote weird Wizard of Oz moment. I don't know why I wrote that.
I don't know.
And then
did he get a brain?
This dancing orangutan comes over. Oh, because everybody is getting what they wanted. You two are getting together, and you got this, and you got that, and you get a car, and you get a car. And then Rasuli like comes over there and like puts his knife in his throat and is like, "You're a good guy. Take a boat and get out."
Yeah, like I don't think boats are cheap back then.
No.
Like it's those materials are quite pricey.
So then they follow Michael Sheen's boat. Everybody ends up on Magic Island, which was hidden in what way we don't know, and we don't really. There's not even an explanation as to what's special about this island or why it's special. Who knows?
Well, it glows.
It does glow-ish.
Sort of.
And then we're on the ledge. We do the ledge bit, and nothing funny happens on the ledge. And somehow we're to believe that on a little 8-inch ledge, an ostrich and a polar bear. It's like
That made me laugh because I was like, this is the most ridiculous. Why even put this in the movie? An ostrich is like the most top-heavy animal in the world, and his midsection is huge. His skinny ass legs, he's like hanging this way. So dumb.
And we didn't need the ledge. There weren't even any ledge jokes. There was no reason for them to be on a ledge.
It's just a real quick cut to let you know they're going on the mountain.
They could have just walked up straight up to the thing, or done something interesting to get there. No,
not in this movie. You don't want to do too many interesting things.
And then the dragon shows up, and the dragon then kills everybody. And then the dragon like lays down and is like, I can't kill anybody. I've got a tummy ache.
Yep. And then we have... So, all right, here's my thing about this movie, Dan. We then spend the next 10 minutes inside a dragon's asshole. That is the end of this movie. That's like the big finale moment is him digging through a dragon's asshole. What are you talking about? Who wrote that is like, this is good. This is how we wrap up this movie.
And he's like pulling out helmets and shields. And what's the big reveal of the thing that's making his bowel obstructed?
I don't know. What was it? I don't even remember.
Bagpipes.
Oh, that's right. He got the bagpipe. This movie is so dumb.
The least you could have done was he could have been breathing fire one time, and then there was like a... They're like, what the hell is going on?
It was bagpipes.
Oh my God. So then we go back to the palace, and we solve the problem.
What? Hold on. Before we go back to the palace, I wasn't sure if you were going to bring it up. I was going to see if you did. He leaves his wedding ring behind on the island as a symbol to his wife, right? So he holds the ring in his hand that was just inside a dragon's asshole, kisses the ring, and puts it down. The guy puts his hand in a dragon and then in his mouth. What are you talking about? I almost lost my shit when he did that. I was like, at least show me him washing off after crawling inside the dragon. Disgusting stuff, guys. Really bad.
They should have had to send, Stubbins into the dragon's asshole. Right?
Send the kid all the way in.
I can't reach you with my arm, Stubbins. You gotta go in.
You gotta go in, kid. Hold your breath.
Yeah, there's a whole wacky fight at the end. I didn't make any notes on it because at this point you're just like, thank God.
There's not even a fight, Dan. We go back to the palace and it's just immediately like, oh, by the way, he's the bad guy. He's like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. Pulls a knife, end the movie. There's nothing. Why even make him the bad guy? There's nothing that happens. We spend 20 minutes inside a dragon's butt, and then we wrap up the final bad guy in 3 seconds.
Butt jokes are funny.
This movie. There weren't any jokes.
Bagpipes in a butt. That's funny, Tony. That's funny. You're laughing.
If he's farting tunes, maybe that's funny. But I hate this movie.
Yes. He's got a knife, and so then Stubbins becomes his apprentice.
So you said you had a list of all of the... you mentioned this before we started. You have a list of everyone that played characters. I'd love to go through that and see if any of them were any good.
We went through most of them. Kumail as the ostrich. Emma Thompson as Polynesia Fine. John Cena as Yoshi.
Who was fine.
Craig Robinson as Kevin the squirrel.
Yeah.
Ralph Fiennes as Barry the tiger.
Oh, okay.
Which was fine because it's not a comedic role, really.
Is that funny? Yeah, he didn't say any jokes.
And your Spider-Man boy, Tom Holland, as Jip the dog with the glasses that stayed behind with the Queen.
The dog that doesn't do anything? Why are you giving that to Tom Holland? Tom's great. That's a bummer.
Who do you think played the giraffe? Selena Gomez.
I was going to guess David Schwimmer, but that's Madagascar.
And you sit here and you think he was funny in that.
He was funny in that, absolutely.
David Schwimmer has a funny voice, and he's a comedic talent. I mean, actually, that first Madagascar movie is really good.
It's good, yeah. Not this movie.
And Jason Mantzoukas as the Fly, Dragonfly.
Yeah, which is, I mean, the only character that I enjoyed.
Yeah, he was one of the few things in this movie you're like, okay, I'll buy that. And but of course,
in general, I'm a fan.
They didn't even play his jokes right because he was supposed to have like a bad memory, and then they didn't really have a bad memory. At one point, they're like, he's got a bad memory, and he flies over there, and he's like, oh, and they're like, what do you have for us? And he's like, oh, I'm supposed to tell you this. You're like, wait.
Yeah. Well, they give it like first, and something I want to bring up is that the jokes that the animals do say, the timing is wrong. Like there's not enough breath and pauses to like get the zing. But you can do that. You have all the control. It's all CGI. How can the timing of a joke be off when you can literally sit in an editing room for days and just tweak on when this joke? I don't understand that. I don't understand. It's not like you have to shoot it once on set and you're like, oh man, we missed that beat.
Well, because and that's what this movie is, another Frankenstein movie. It went through all sorts of reshoots because they showed it to audiences, and audiences hated it, rightly so, because it was terrible.
Sure, yeah. And good job, audiences.
The problem is the bones. If you don't have bones in a movie, A to B to C to D to E to F, those were all wrong. When those all start as wrong, it doesn't matter how many reshoots you make because you can't add jokes. And you've also made these decisions about how the jokes are supposed to be because Robin Williams was funny as the genie. Everyone goes back to that. Robin Williams is so funny as that goddamn genie. Okay, that's fine, but you can't structure every movie with that how every character's comedy is.
Well, I mean, especially not because you don't have Robin Williams. It's not like the genie is funny and Robin Williams just happened to play him. Robin Williams is fucking funny, and you put him in a genie. That's the direction that the comedy went.
And he
big problem.
He wrote a lot of those jokes, and so when someone
I would imagine,
crazy like him writes a joke on the fly, it's funny because you don't know what the hell is coming at. It's a freight train coming at you, and Rami Malek is not a freight train coming at you. He is tentative and confused and. A sad little boy. And it's okay to be a sad little boy.
With big eyes.
Big eyes.
What a treat.
Mr. Robot. So let's do a couple minutes on the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle. I started watching that.
I almost forgot. Thank you. Yes.
And it's not a good movie.
Ooh, we disagree on that, but
let me put it this way: it's not an amazing movie. It's a very serviceable comedy. Does everything
100%.
line up just perfect? But
no.
Once you have Chris Rock show up as a wisecracking guinea pig,
great,
you're done. It's a movie.
Norm Macdonald is great in that movie.
Hilarious.
We watched it, and it may have been the fact that we watched this immediately after. As soon as we turned off this piece of shit, we were like, we have to watch the other one because we need something. And we laughed almost all the way through. Like it was funny. It's entertaining. That's it. That's all you need. I don't need it to be like Citizen Kane of comedies. I just need it to be a decent movie that entertains me. And that movie certainly did.
I wrote down one thing. Oh, look, she's got a giant egg. His little daughter has this giant egg in her bed. And I'm just like, that tiny, tiny bit is funnier than this entire Dr. Dolittle. This new Dolittle. The whole movie. The absurdity of this little girl incubating an egg in her bed. It's just like so weird. And I loved
great.
it. I'm like, this is what movies are about, is charming little moments, as opposed to.
And you didn't finish the movie, so
No.
you don't know the payoff of that bit, which is where it opens. It turns out it's an alligator. It's a baby alligator. And Chris Rock is like, it's Jurassic Park. And he's like screaming. It's fucking brilliant. It's so good.
And there you go. They set up a joke like in Act 1 that they probably don't pay off until the end of Act 2 or even Act 3.
It's the end of the movie. It's the wrap up of the movie. It's like, oh wait, everyone's happy. Now the egg is hatching. And it's fucking phenomenal.
You have set up a joke in Act 1 and you are paying it off essentially in the epilogue.
Yeah.
That is your kicker joke.
Great work.
And this movie is paying off jokes that it never even set up.
Never said. Well, we can skip that part of it. Nobody enjoys the setup, right? It's all about the payoff.
And I'm sorry, but you gotta have the setup to have the payoff.
Oh, it doesn't work otherwise.
It doesn't work. Stupid ass goddamn lunch machine.
And here's the only thing I'm going to say is I pulled this up.
Is this the only thing you're going to say, Tony?
Get it accurate. The last thing I should have said. I know I talk a lot.
Yeah, Kate McKinnon.
This 2020's Dolittle on Rotten Tomatoes has 14% from critics, which is accurate, but it has 76% from audience. That is asinine. And then the Dr. Dolittle Eddie Murphy one has 35% audience score. I don't understand the world we live in.
I would be very careful of putting any truth behind any numbers on Rotten Tomatoes, because I've always been under the impression that studios can buy whatever they need.
Sure.
In the way of the audience numbers. So
maybe, I don't know. It just makes me sad. I don't understand the world we live in. I don't belong here.
Poor Tony. Okay, so now is the time where we talk about something we like this week, and
switching gears.
I'm going to do a crazy Tony pick because Tony's out of his mind. Not something you like, but it's something that no one else likes.
Just got it.
I've been watching all these crazy hard Sudoku videos on YouTube, where there's normal Sudoku that you do in the newspaper.
I love it.
They have these ones where there's all these other rules where, like, along this line the numbers only go up, along this line the numbers go down, the numbers inside this box add up to 14.
Oh my god.
And so they put all these crazy things on there and all these different notations, and then the Sudoku will have like one number. They'll have like the number 5 over here. That's it. One number.
And you got to figure all that shit out by yourself. No.
Some of these videos are like an hour and 20 minutes long to figure out a little normal Sudoku. And it's like, you watch them and you're just like, oh my god, the craziness of these logic puzzles.
Not in a million years.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So I've been watching those. They're usually like a half an hour to like an hour and a half, averaging about 45 minutes. And these puzzles are just bonkers.
I can't do those. I can't do it.
So, Tony, why don't you tell us the latest, thing you saw on your carpet?
What? I'll tell you, this week was a good week for me. I have two things that I'd like to shout out. One is the Friends reunion dropped this week.
Is it any good?
It depends. I think the audience is mixed on it from what I can tell, but I loved it. People seemed confused that it was more of like a documentary and a night with the cast of Friends as opposed to like maybe an episode or something. They were looking for something a little more. I don't know. But it's just kind of like they all got together and they kind of talk about memories. Some special guests show up from the past. And I cried a lot. I had a good time. Some of them look great. Some of them have not aged disgracefully.
That sounds way more interesting than them trying to make new content about it.
I agree. I feel like this was the right move, and I had a great time, is what I'll say. And then the other thing I'd like to shout out is I'm really on a Zack Snyder kick, but Army of the Dead on Netflix, fucking awesome. So much fun. Did you watch it, Dan?
I mean, I watched it until I was so bored I had to turn it off. Yeah, that's
So
what I did.
bored. Are you crazy?
Oh, it was so
It's a
boring.
great movie.
It was so
Oh my God, it's
boring.
so good. You're out of your mind.
And I watched I watched a couple other reviews of it, and they were all saying the same things that I was thinking. It's just like, oh my God.
You guys are all so cynical.
So you gotta explain this one to me, Tony. So
Yeah.
dude hires you to go and break into his own vault, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just give you the combination?
He's so do you want me to spoil it?
Don't care. Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay, so for anyone that's listening, spoilers alert in the next minute and a half for Army of the Dead. Has nothing to do with the money. He's sending them on a fool's errand. Basically, the guy that he hires, Martin, is there to get blood samples of the lead zombie. That's the only thing he cares about. Everyone else literally dies.
Okay, more importantly, well then you don't have to answer my question because you didn't answer my question. Why doesn't he just give him the combination?
Because he doesn't like. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with. He wants them all to die.
Okay,
so once they're there,
Tony. Okay, I'm going to hire you to break into my safe. And
yeah.
so what's the first thing that you would say to me? What's the
what's the combination?
And then I say, oh, I'm just sending you on a fool's errand so you'll die.
You wouldn't say that, Dan.
Okay,
you would never say that.
Was there a line where he explained how he couldn't give you the combination in this movie?
No.
Why wasn't there a line?
I mean, I don't know why there wasn't that line.
Okay.
But my theory is that it's not really his safe. I don't think that they don't really explain it. I don't think it's his safe at all.
Well, why?
I think he knows about the safe.
Why didn't they just explain that?
I mean, they should have, absolutely. But that's like one plot point in the movie. And you got to get way past that to get to all the great stuff. There's a time loop theory that's going around, which is great. There's an alien theory, which is very fun. Great movie. Watched it twice this week.
Now,
had a great time.
They're down there in the vault, and there's like time-sensitive thing. There's like a pressure-sensitive things that shoot poison darts.
Yeah, man.
Do you think there's really things in the world that people set up with poison darts?
I think that if I had the ability, I would just do that for mundane things.
Okay.
So like people think that they're cool things, and then like 30 people get killed by it, and then one guy gets there and it's like, I got socks. What am I doing here?
My last question for Tony, fan of Army of the Dead.
Yes.
Did you find the action scenes in the actual movie more exciting than the action scenes in the credits?
No, the credits are out of this world. I mean, but to be fair, the credits are like the best credits I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? Like the entire opening of that movie is perfect. Unbelievable.
So basically they shot a perfect movie and made it the title scene, and then they made this other movie, which is 2.5 hours long that we don't care about.
There's some great stuff towards the end. He's running on table to table, shooting these zombies, which is great. There's a lot of good stuff, but the full action scene isn't as good as something that you can like cut together to a music video.
So it's not really
you have to show more.
So it's not really an action movie.
No, it's not really an action movie. For sure not.
So if you want a non-action movie, zombie movie called Army of the Dead.
Well, zombie movies aren't action movies. Like Dawn and Day of the Dead, those aren't action movies. They're zombie movies. Zombies are more of a psychological,
And are you
mind fuck.
Are you glad they cut Crystalia out?
I guess yes is the answer. But I know that I shouldn't say this, but like part of me is like, I kind of want to see what he did. I want to see it.
Did you think anybody was more interesting? Was Tig's performance the most interesting performance in the whole movie?
100%. Yes.
There it is. There you go. The person who was not on set, who literally talked to no one and was involved with no one.
Did you know that before you watched it?
Nope. Didn't know it at all.
Either did I. I read it like 3 days later and I was like, what?
I was
Wait, what?
You understood a little more of her level of disconnect. You were like, okay, this makes sense, but damn, they did an incredible job of putting her in there.
It's amazing. I honestly have no idea how they did some of that stuff. Incredible work there.
Crystalia.
And probably the right move, you know? Fuck that guy.
So we've got to have a movie for next week. And
yeah, we do.
I toyed around with a couple ideas, but the one we're going with is a classic of the genre, and the genre is pirate movies. And it is none other than a movie that you may have never seen. I have never seen it, but it is routinely talked about as being absolutely terrible.
Oh.
Rennie Harlin's Cutthroat Island.
Cutthroat Island. Okay.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I have never seen it. I've never had a desire to see it, and I'm ready.
It might be good. It might be beyond terrible.
I don't think it's going to be good.
I don't think it's going to be good either.
Well, I'm here for it. It was on my list as well.
Oh, was it?
I'm ready.
I just rediscovered it. I saw it on this thing, and they listed a couple of movies. Including Son of the Mask, which we've talked about. And they mentioned
we should do that.
Cutthroat Island, and I was like, oh yeah, we got to go there. We have to go there.
Done. I think this is gonna be a good one.
I think so.
It's gonna be a lot to talk about. I think
it's gonna be interesting to see how they screw it up Gina Davis's career, because she was on a high, and this was her star role.
Yeah, she was so great. Fuck those guys.
So this has been Hate Watching with Dan and Tony. Tony, dropping the F-bomb.
Sorry, everybody. It's been a week.
Tony F-bomb. That's Tony's new nickname, F-bomb.
That's my new name?
Yeah,
F-bomb?
Hey, F-bomb.
That's how you got to say it. F-bomb?
T-Boney, I like to call him. This has been Hate Watching. I'm Dan.
I'm Tony.
If you like what you see, leave a comment, leave a thing, push the buttons that are down in button land.
All the buttons.
And we'll be back again next week with Cutthroat Island.
Woo!
See you then.
Bye, everybody.